Well, hello everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful day. I wanted today to talk to you about the query letter. Now, I do not talk to you about the query letter from the point of view as this is how you do it, because frankly, I'm still learning, and obviously, because I'm unpublished, the query letter hasn't yet worked. So take this as more of a what not to do, potentially. But I thought nonetheless I would go into a little bit of detail and share with you my first query letter and some of the responses and the reactions I got to it, and kind of explain how it evolved from there, just in case it happens to help you if you're working on something yourself, you're wanting to construct a query letter. Some of the things which was highlighted to me, which I didn't perhaps appreciate at the time, not being objective on my own book, of course, really helped to kind of refine it. And I think it's probably in a better place than it was when it started. So, for the uninitiated, of course, the query letter is what you send to prospective publishers as a sales pitch for your book. It's normally 250 to 350 words long, some very, very basic details about word count, the title, who you are, but literally, some people don't even include that. And it's your shop front. It's something that you're hoping ultimately will entice a potential publisher to think, do you know what? I think I want to know more about this story. And all being well, you would get contacted. They would ask to see the first few chapters, along with a covering letter, and go from there. And who knows where it could go, and how it could evolve. So that's kind of the challenge that a lot of writers, especially in their first time, are facing, me included. And it's the first foray into putting the book out there to seeing if anyone is interested in it. So I'm just going to read you the first attempt that I had at a query letter, and it's only it's only two paragraphs. But I'll let me know what you think in the comments, and then I'll go through some of the feedback I got, and how I then change things. So, Fen was never supposed to survive. Born into a murderous family in the land of perpetual night, he escaped when every other darkling who crossed into the world of light was destroyed. Now, wandering a land that sees him nothing but pure evil, Fen struggles with the violent instincts bred into him, and the mystery of why he survived when all others perished. When an encounter with his vengeful sister forces him to seek refuge in a small town, Fen's tenuous existence unravels. Blamed for a murder, he must go on the run with Hessa, an orphan girl who sees past his darkness to something better within. As they flee, rumours spread of the Amiron, a being of pure light whose tears can heal the world. Drawn inexplicably to this legend, Fen must confront the truth about his origins and decide whether he is doomed to destruction or if he has the power to change the fate of two worlds. Ooh, well, it didn't really go down particularly well, but that was my attempt at hyping it up. But that was the first attempt I had. So the feedback I posted, the feedback I got for the book at first, this is exactly the same as the developmental edit. I was kind of like, oh, who do these people think they are? They don't know my book, which of course is the point. So once I'd kind of gotten past my ego and gotten over the emotional trauma of trying to wrap my head why someone couldn't possibly be interested in my book, I started to look a bit more into the details of it. And one person in particular just fed back kind of section by section, and basically said that the first paragraph was quite confusing. Is he escaping his murderous family into the land of light intentionally, believing it would be a death sentence but surviving? Or did his family or kind cross over into the land of light thinking it would be fine but then die? Okay. Also, how could he encounter his sister if they're all dead? Try to avoid saying he was inexplicably drawn to a legend because it lacks agency on Fenn's part, which I didn't quite appreciate at the time. I think sometimes I wrote things that extrinsic things that happen to the characters that make them then behave in a certain way or do something. And it's easy sometimes to forget that it's slightly more believable sometimes, especially for the hero of a book, that they have, that they're masters of their own agency, that they are actually creating their own story in a sense, that they are deciding what they're going to do. And it comes from within them. And then everything else that happens around them is there for them to react to and integrate with, or not, as the case may be. So that was a really valuable piece of feedback. And then another one that's kind of linked into that was I'm struggling to latch onto the stakes of the novel. Fen doesn't seem to have much of a goal or a personality beyond surviving, so it's hard to get a clear picture of what is going to happen until you tell us at the end of the query. I'd set the stake up a lot quicker and give us more detail about what happens after the inciting incident. So, and they also said, I've room in the query for more, so go for it. So again, it was kind of like, well, yeah, you're right. He survived the transition to the land of light, and I'm thinking to myself, well, is that kind of it? It isn't, but in a sense, it evolves as the 5 books go on, culminating in the final novel. So I had to kind of approach this query letter from the sense that really I think a publisher's going to want to see a standalone book, because a standalone book for an unpublished author is far less risky than me saying, I've got a 5-book series and you have no idea who I am, or whether or not I can even write a good book. So that was again quite sort of valuable feedback. And then, as I sort of tried new versions of it, I was aware that I wanted to be a bit more explicit about things. I wanted to explain things, a bit earlier on for people, just to make the stakes a bit more believable. You know, Someone put my comments: born into a murderous family in the land of night. Why do we care? And I thought, okay. As in, what things or people or concepts does his family murder? Are they bad or good? Do we need to know this right off the bat? And I thought to myself, well, I'm setting up who he is and what his kind of headline background is as a character. So, yes, because it's almost like a setting the scene. But then he goes on to say, it's not clear that when Fen is introduced, if he's a Darkling or not. It takes away from the opening line. Maybe insert that somewhere. So, that's a bit of a rejig of the order of words and things like that, which others have mentioned. My comment, wandering a land that sees him as nothing but pure evil. And he says, I see what you're trying to do here, establishing him as an outsider. What makes him special? What's his motivation beyond surviving? What are his violent instincts? You could map this out a little bit more just for the sake of providing a bit of context. And yeah, I think he or she are correct in what they're saying. And I keep having to remind myself that this is an objective person who knows nothing about my book, never seen it, never heard of it, and this is all they've ever read of it. And they go on, about. I move on to talking about the Amaron. You need more here. Is this Amaron going to fix Fen's situation? What is Fen's situation? And after a while, I think to myself, how long has this query letter got to be? Because I could probably go into 500 words about explaining all of this. But of course, the skill is in less is more. At least that's what I've picked up from this. Crystallizing down something, including what you absolutely have to include that enriches the story that you're trying to tell, and discarding the rest of it, the detritus, the flotsam, basically, that you just don't, that it's almost superfluous to the purpose of a query letter. Grab their attention, but tell them what they need to know, and don't be too flowery about it. Ignore get rid of the purple prose, get rid of all of the over the top stuff that might make them go ugh, and just delete the email or politely reply with a thanks but no thanks. So after all of that, I kind of went through 3 or 4 iterations of the query, and I'm going to read back the one where I'm up to at the moment, and you'll see how it's perhaps altered slightly and evolved based on some of these comments. And please do let me know when you compare it to the first one, whether or not you feel there's an improvement, or knowing what you know about the book, which admittedly, if you've been following my channel, is all of about 7 episodes long, so probably not that much. But I would certainly value people's feedback. So this is the latest version, and it says, Fen is a darkling raised on hate and born into a world of shadow. Despite being part of a family who are ruthless warriors, obsessed with nothing more than conquest and power, he feels different. Something intangible grows inside, a light of sorts, beckoning him to be a better person. When his life reaches a tipping point, he realizes he can't live another minute, so he crosses over to the land of light, knowing he will be killed by the sun's rays. To his amazement, he survives, but in that instant, he also feels a part of him is taken away, be it a piece of his soul or the light he felt within, he cannot be sure. He feels incomplete, so tries to fill the emptiness by trying to be kind to others, to learn how to be selfless and how to love unconditionally. But the other side is a world alien to him, and violence bred into him from birth is a difficult thing to overcome. Though he tries hard to forget his past, his family have other ideas and soon pursue him under the cover of night to exact a penance. Seeking refuge in a small town, he is greeted with fear and loathing on a level even he is accustomed to. He has precious little time to fathom why, for another attack forces him to protect Hessa, an orphan girl who sees a chance to befriend a fellow outcast. An innocent man is killed, and the town are quick to blame him. Going into hiding, the pair must come to terms with what has happened and try to clear Fen's name amidst a torrent of prejudice from those who would see him hanged. Amidst a mob of angry people who grow increasingly impatient with local law enforcement, the deputy magistrate investigating the murder realizes the real danger may lie far closer to home than anyone would care to admit. He must try to walk the line between upholding the rule of law and courting the Darkling and his new friend, who may be the only ones who can help get to the truth. With help from a precious few who still believe in justice and impartiality, Fen begins to discover a town gripped by ideology, and in doing so a connection to a mysterious being far away, the Amiron. A spiritual leader adored by millions at the heart of a political tug-of-war, as some of those in power plot to have him removed. His tears are said to cure all illness and bring unbridled joy to people's lives, but all he wants to understand are his strange dreams and why he feels drawn to the Darkling he has never even met. And then it just goes on to say that it's complete. It's about 100,000 words. Blah blah blah. So that's I hope that didn't bore you too much, but that helps to kind of explain how I've currently arrived, and I suspect it will go through another couple of versions still before I feel it's ready. Because of course, what happened after this was I sent it off for a developmental edit, and the first thing the guy came back said, you need to be more explicit with what Fen's doing. What are his motivations? What are his goals? So it's a funny old world, and all of these things tie together and slap me around the face with a bit of truth and some facts. And they're right. And my book is better for having gone through that process. And the query letter will be better for having gone through this process. So I'm going to work on this a little bit more over the coming weeks. And once I get the copy edit back, which is almost ready to be sent off, I will update everybody on what my final version is, and I will keep you posted on who I'm sending it out to, if I've gotten any responses yet, and how I'm kind of currently feeling about the publishing process and the attempt to get this over the line. So yeah, hopefully that's been insightful for you. Thank you very much for obviously joining. Please like, share, and subscribe the video. I'll probably do something over the Easter break, as it is here in the UK this coming weekend. So if I don't speak to you before then, have a good one, and I'll see you soon.